corporate corpse and the pricks of Kremlin. The cubicle caliphate was winning. What started as memes and viral roasts snowballed into a full-blown cultural shift. Within months, being openly corporate became social suicide. Ivy League douchebags suddenly forgot they went to Harvard and started saying things like, "Yeah, I went to a small liberal arts school in New England." McKinsey consultants began telling people they had a boring office job just to pay the bills while they worked on their first novel. Wall Street bankers started showing up to the office in shorts and hoodies, only changing into suits once they were safely inside the building, like vampires avoiding sunlight. Corporate slogans became punchlines. Move fast and break things was now code for please fire me. LinkedIn was dying. The hottest new flex was getting fired publicly by a big tech company. The elites were getting nervous. And when elites get nervous, they do what they always do. They try to buy the problem. One foggy evening, Richard was in the middle of recording a new track called Pitchfork Prick when the encrypted phone rang. It was the general. "Corpse, we need to talk, in person." 2 hours later, a black SUV pulled up. The general stepped out, looking exhausted, accompanied by 2 serious-looking men in tactical gear. "Blackwater?" Richard asked, raising an eyebrow. "Private contractors," the general said flatly. "They're here for security." Richard laughed. "Security, right. So what's this about?" The general slid a thick folder across the table. "An offer, a very generous one. $250 million, full amnesty. You shut down the cubicle caliphate, delete all your channels, and retire somewhere nice. No more songs, no more roasts, no more university. You walk away rich and leave the system alone." Richard stared at the number, then looked up with pure disgust. The general leaned in. "This comes from the very top, Corpse. People who can make your life very difficult if you say no. And trust me, these contractors aren't here for decoration." Richard slowly stood up, cracked his neck, and gave them that signature dangerous half-smile. "So let me get this straight. After everything, after I ended a world war, after your boys stole my app, after I turned a bunch of jihadists into anti-corporate meme warriors, now you want to buy me out like I'm some mid-level manager asking for a raise?" He stepped closer to the general. "Tell those soft, pink billionaire assholes something for me. You can take your $250 million and shove it straight up your collective asses. I've spent 25 years watching pricks like them destroy lives for sport. I'm not for sale. And if they think sending Blackwater goons is going to scare me, they clearly haven't been paying attention. Gentlemen, if you're here to apply pressure, go ahead. I've survived worse in Tuesday morning stand-ups. Now get the fuck out of my warehouse and tell your bosses the roast isn't over. It's only getting started." The general shook his head as he walked toward the door. "You're making powerful enemies, Corpse." Richard called after him. "Good. I've been making them my whole life. At least now they're scared." The elite's next move was as predictable as it was stupid. In a panic, a coalition of billionaires, tech CEOs, and private equity vampires did what they always did when threatened. They created a new initiative. They called it Empathy First, a $2 billion PR campaign complete with rainbow-washed commercials, celebrity endorsements, and mandatory corporate healing circles. They started posting on what was left of LinkedIn about listening to the workers and rebuilding trust. Some even offered free therapy sessions for employees, while quietly accelerating outsourcing. It backfired spectacularly. The internet crucified them. Corporate Corpse's crew turned the whole campaign into a month-long meme slaughter. But Richard had a much bigger problem on his hands. He noticed it slowly at first. The energy in the warehouse had changed. The young guys were still loyal, but the fire was dimming. Fewer laughs during roasting sessions, less enthusiasm when planning new operations. One night, after a particularly weak strategy meeting, Richard pulled Abu Khalid aside. "Talk to me, kid. What the fuck is going on? The boys look like they just got their performance review and a 1.8% raise." Abu Khalid rubbed the back of his neck, looking unusually shy.
"Boss, it's not that they don't believe in the cause anymore. It's just they've been watching you. Everybody admires you. You're fearless, you're tough, you're funny as fuck even when you're pissed off. The guys, they want to be like you." Richard frowned. "So what's the problem?" Abu Khalid gave him a small, awkward smile. "How are we supposed to become like you if we never go through the hell you went through?"
Richard stood there, mouth literally hanging open. Abu Khalid continued, almost apologetically. "Before I got radicalized, I got an economics degree from Sorbonne. I think I could get a banking job pretty easily right now, especially since even H-1Bs from North Korea won't touch that shit anymore. I just feel like I need to complete my own journey, to suffer in the cubicles, to get betrayed, to build my own rage. Only then can I become the man I want to be." Richard stared at him for a long 5 seconds. "You've got to be fucking kidding me." He started pacing, running his hands through his hair. "So let me get this straight. I turned you little shits away from blowing yourselves up for fake glory, and now you want to go work for Goldman Sachs? You want to voluntarily enter the same soul-crushing machine I've been warning everyone about?" Abu Khalid shrugged with surprising calmness. "Boss, you became corporate corpse because of what they did to you. We want our own scars, our own stories. We don't want to just follow you forever. We want to earn it." Richard stood there stunned, the weight of unintended consequences hitting him like a bad quarterly earnings call. The revolution was eating itself, not because they lost faith in the mission, but because they wanted to become just like their leader. Richard sat alone in his old basement again. The warehouse was empty. The young guys had mostly left, some to find their own path, others to actually apply for corporate jobs like it was some fucked up pilgrimage. Abu Khalid had been the first to go. He sent Richard a message 2 weeks later. "Boss, I got the banking job. They love me. I already hate it. This is perfect. Thank you." Richard stared at the message for a long time, then turned off his phone. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Defeated. Not angry, not raging, just tired, empty. Like the final boss of corporate hell had won after all. He was back where he started, broke, middle-aged, drinking warm Monster in a basement that still smelled like failure and stale rage. His phone rang one quiet evening. "Jefe." Richard almost didn't pick up, but he did. "Corpse." "I heard what happened," Jefe said, his voice unusually calm. "No laughing, no bullshit. The boys left you. They want to become you." "That's rough, hermano." Richard let out a tired chuckle. "Yeah, turns out the ultimate revenge is making them want to suffer in the same machine I warned them about." Jefe was quiet for a moment. "You know, I've lost men before. Good ones. Sometimes they leave because they think they can do better. It hurts. But you did something most people never do. You gave them hope. Even if they're going about it like idiots now, that's not nothing." Richard raised an eyebrow. "You going soft on me, Jefe?" Jefe laughed lightly. "Nah, just saying, you're a crazy bastard, but you're an honest one. That's rare. Hang in there, cabron. The game's not over." It was the most human conversation Richard had in years. A few days later, Richard started hearing rumors. There was a new anti-corporate warlord rising fast. His name was Marcus Steele. He was dropping fire videos, roasting billionaires, talking about burning the system down. His followers were growing rapidly. At first, Richard felt a strange pride. Richard sat in his basement, scrolling through the latest clips from the rising anti-corporate star, Marcus Steele. Ex-eccentric consultant, mid-30s, sharp jawline, perfectly styled hair, and the dead eyes of someone who had spent years optimizing other people's suffering for PowerPoint slides. He had been quietly laid off during the Empathy First wave and apparently decided the best comeback was stealing Corpse's entire movement. At first, Richard gave him the benefit of the doubt, but the more he watched, the clearer it became. Steele wasn't angry, he was performing anger. His videos were too clean, too scripted, too focus-grouped. He talked about disrupting the system while sounding exactly like the kind of guy who once recommended synergistic right-sizing in a boardroom. He was a corporate turd in revolutionary cosplay. And then Steele crossed the line. In his latest video, he looked straight into the camera and said, "Corporate Corpse had his moment, but let's be honest, he's yesterday's news. He got soft. The real fight needs someone who actually understands how these companies work from the inside, someone with real strategy. That's me." Richard stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he started laughing, low at first, then louder, meaner. The old Corporate Corpse fire roared back to life. "Oh, you slimy, PowerPoint-loving, Accenture alumni piece of shit." He stood up, cracked his neck, and grabbed his microphone. The copycat had fucked up. Later that night, Richard dropped a new track titled Fake as Fuck. It was raw, unfiltered, and vicious. "You wear the rage like a cheap suit that don't fit right. Talking about the system, but you used to suck it every night. Ex-ass venture boy, now you're LARPing as the savior. I was bleeding in the trenches while you were doing process behavior." The diss track spread like wildfire. Within hours, the internet was picking it apart. People started digging into Steele's past. Old LinkedIn posts praising synergies and human capital optimization, photos from corporate retreats, everything. The original crew started reaching out again. Abu Khalid texted him, "Boss, this guy is embarrassing. We followed you, not this corporate cosplayer." Even Jeffe sent a message. "LMAO, this pendejo thinks he's you? Put him in the ground, Corpse." Richard leaned back in his chair, finally smiling again. He wasn't defeated anymore. He had a new mission: destroy the faker. Richard was in the middle of writing a brutal new diss track aimed at Marcus Steele when his encrypted phone rang. It was the general. "Corpse, we have a problem." Richard sighed. "If this is about me hurting billionaire feelings again, I'm busy." "It's bigger than that," the general said, voice tight. "The Russians are back. They've latched on to Marcus Steele. They're pumping money, bots, and influence ops into his movement. They're turning your anti-corporate rage into pro-Russian propaganda. Steele's new videos are suddenly full of NATO aggression and Western decadence and other classic Kremlin bullshit. He's become their useful idiot." Richard leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "So let me get this straight. I roast corporate pricks. Some Accenture reject steals my whole aesthetic, and now Putin's boys are using him to fuck with America? Again?" "Exactly," the general replied. "We need you back in the game. Neutralize Steele and cut off the Russian influence. We'll give you resources, funding, whatever you need. This is a national security threat now." There was a long pause. Then Richard started laughing. Hard. "Oh, this is fucking priceless!" The general sounded confused. "Corpse, this isn't funny." "It's hilarious," Richard said, still chuckling. I spent months turning jihadists into anti-corporate warriors. Now some fake-ass corporate cosplayer is getting Russian intelligence support to LARP as me. The irony is so thick you could spread it on toast. Fine, I'll handle it, but on my terms. No handlers, no bullshit deals. And when I'm done burying this clown, I want full ownership of the original Manipulate AI back. No negotiations. The general exhaled. Deal. Meanwhile, in a luxurious Moscow-backed villa in Serbia, Marcus Steele was filming his latest video. He was wearing a black tactical vest over a dress shirt, trying way too hard, ranting about globalist elites while subtly weaving in lines about how Russia was standing up to Western imperialism. What Steele didn't know was that every script was being reviewed by Russian handlers. His follower count was exploding artificially. His movement was no longer just fake, it was compromised. Back in his basement, Richard watched Steele's newest video with pure contempt. Ex-Accenture little shit. Couldn't even be a good corporate drone. Now you're Putin's puppet? Pathetic. He cracked open a Monster and smiled that dangerous half-smile. Time to remind everyone who the original corporate corpse is. Richard didn't waste time. He picked up the encrypted phone and dialed Abu Khalid. The phone rang twice before the young Frenchman answered. "Boss?" Khalid sounded surprised. "Everything okay?" Richard cut straight to it, voice low and serious. "Kid, I need your help, and the help of the other guys. I know it's a lot to ask after everything." He took a breath. "The mission has changed. We're not just fighting corporate fucks anymore. We're not even fighting that fake-ass ex-Accenture cunt, Marcus Steele. We're up against the fucking Bolsheviks now. The Russians are backing him. They're turning our movement into their propaganda tool." You know me, Khalid. I'm not the type to wave flags and sing the national anthem, but I'm an American, proud and stubborn as fuck. I love my First Amendment freedom to take a major piss on some billionaire fuck who turned the American dream into a nightmare without getting prosecuted for it. And I like my Second Amendment freedom to pack some serious heat in case some asshole shows up at my house trying to hurt me and mine. I know you're French. I know the other boys are from all over Europe. I'm not going to presume you share all the same values and beliefs. But trust me on this. These Kremlin dogs don't give a fuck about any of your rights. You roast one of Putin's pet oligarchs, or God forbid the Tsar himself, and you'll either drink polonium-laced tea or take a short flight out of a tall window. So, Khalid, what do you say? There was a short pause on the line. Then a calm, steady voice answered. I am in, Corpse. Good, he said, voice thick. Round up whoever's still loyal. Tell them the fake is working for the Russians. We're going to war with this poser and his Kremlin handlers. Khalid chuckled softly. You know, some of the guys were already getting bored in their new corporate jobs. They'll come running when they hear it's you versus the Bolsheviks. Richard grinned. Tell them Corporate Corpse is back in business, and this time we're burning the copycat at the stake. Richard sat in his basement staring at the whiteboard covered in notes, connections, and red string like a schizophrenic conspiracy theorist. He had memes. He had songs. He had a loyal but half-distracted crew. He had rage. But this wasn't some soft-handed tech billionaire he could roast into oblivion. This was the Russians, the real fucking game. The KGB didn't give a shit about viral clips and savage diss tracks. They played dirty. They played permanent. He leaned back and muttered to himself, Fuck, I can't fight the KGB with memes and songs. I need someone who can deliver serious violence. Someone who spent the last few years turning Russian armor into scrap metal. Someone who genuinely enjoys violating Russian assholes on a professional level. He took a long sip of Monster. I need some goddamn Ukrainians. Richard made a few careful calls through back channels. Turns out ending World War III gave him some interesting contacts. 2 days later, a blacked-out van pulled up outside the warehouse. Out stepped 4 absolute units. Their leader was a stocky, battle-hardened man in his late 30s, with a scar across his jaw and eyes that had clearly seen too much shit. He went by the call sign, Bandera. He looked Richard up and down, then grinned. "So you're the crazy American who turned jihadists into corporate haters. I've seen your videos. Not bad. Funny guy."
Richard nodded. "I need muscle. Real muscle. The kind that doesn't give a fuck about rules of engagement when it comes to Russians. You boys down for hunting some Kremlin-backed fake-ass eccentric consultant and his handlers?" Bandera laughed, a deep, dangerous sound. "My boys have been killing Russians since 2014, some of us professionally. We ran out of Russians in Ukraine for a while, so this could be fun." One of the other Ukrainians, a tall, bearded guy named Victor, cracked his knuckles. "We heard this Steele guy is sucking Putin's dick on camera. We don't like that."
Richard smiled that old, dangerous half-smile. "Good, 'cause I'm not just trying to expose him. I want to break him. Publicly, humiliatingly. And if his Russian friends get in the way, I want them to remember why they should stay the fuck out of my hemisphere." Bandera extended his hand. "Welcome to the big leagues, Corpse. We'll handle the wet work. You keep doing the memes and psychological warfare. We make a good team." Richard shook his hand firmly. "Welcome to the Cubicle Caliphate, boys. Let's go fuck up some Russians."